There's a saying, better safe than sorry. And for farmers, that's especially true, because when you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of bushels and acres at a time, one small mistake doesn't just cost you time, it can cost you a lot of money. A little bit of moisture, a bit of heat, or one pest infestation can turn a bin full of good grain into spoiled waste. That's why grain bins are so important. They might not be the coolest building on the farm, but they're one of the most critical. Without proper storage, all the seed, fuel, and effort that went into growing the crop can go to waste in a matter of days. Grain bins are one of the final steps in harvest, but if they fail, everything else fails. Back in the early days of farming, long before steel bins, fans, and augers, farmers had to get creative. Grain was their life, and losing it meant going hungry or broke, or even both. They stored grain in a bunch of different ways, including wooden sheds, clay pits, underground cellars, or anything they could build quickly with local materials. One of the common ways of doing that was with wooden granaries, simple sheds built off the ground to prevent moisture and pests from getting into the grain. In some parts of the world, farmers stored grain in woven baskets sealed with mud or clay. In other places, stone buildings or even buried pits lined with grass or ash were used. It wasn't perfect, it was actually far from it, but it was all they had. They used these buildings to store loose grain and sometimes used straw to line the walls for insulation. These wooden granaries are still used today to store grain, but our farm uses it as storage just like many other farms. As agriculture advanced, so did storage. The late 1800s and early 1900s saw the first purpose-built grain elevators. But it wasn't until the 1940s and 50s that steel grain bins really started taking over farms. These bins were round corrugated steel and stood up to weather and pests far better than wood could ever. They could be built bigger, lasted longer, and allowed farmers to store more crop right at home, meaning they didn't have to haul everything to the elevator right away. Fast forward to now, and grain bins have come a long way. Now you've got temperature cables, moisture sensors, automatic aeration control, even smartphone apps that tell you what's happening inside the bin while you're having lunch. Some setups can dry grain right in the bin using fan controls. That means less spoilage, better quality, and more flexibility. Grain bins aren't just storage, they're part of your harvest system, marketing plan, and your bottom line. There are a lot of different grain storage systems out there, flat bottom bins being the most common. There is an auger that is in the floor of the bin going to the center. Once gravity has fed as much grain into the main auger as it can, we then use sweep augers to clean up the rest. Hopper bottom bins are a great storage solution as well. They empty themselves by using gravity, no shoveling required. Some farms use grain bags or grain rings during a big harvest, but those aren't ideal for long-term storage. You've also got smaller seed bins, overhead bins for truck loading, and bins used just for drying. Depending on your farm setup, you might use a mix of all of them. Of course, none of this is cheap. A bin might run you $50,000 to well over $1 million. Add in a concrete pad, power, an aeration system, a quality unloading system. That number climbs fast. But the price of not having good storage? That could be way worse. Spoilage, market timing, dockage, and much more can destroy your profits quickly, especially when you're dealing with thousands or $1 million worth of grain. One thing that doesn't get talked about enough is grain bin safety. Grain bins have saved a lot of crops, but they've also taken a lot of lives. Always respect what you're working with. Never go into a grain bin alone. Keep your equipment maintained and know that the best grain bin in the world is useless if you can't use it safely. Whether it's a wooden building or $1 million grain bin, grain storage has always had one job: keep the harvest safe. And as farming keeps changing, so do the bins. But one thing stays the same: when the crop comes off the field, you have to put it somewhere. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something today. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, let me know what you would like to see next. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time.